go into it a little bit. One time, Christopher and I, we went and sat into a courtroom, and it wasn't our hearing or anything. We just wanted to see what was going on. And at the end of the hearing, with everybody's cases going through, it was for traffic, we saw the judge and the attorney and the prosecuting and the defendant attorney. And she said to both of them, "Good job, everybody. Great job, great teamwork." And that was a huge, whoa, what, did I just hear that? Are they all three working together to make something happen? And it really kind of set me in the pathway of thinking that judges are our enemy. And which is like the whole process of enemy construct of this whole thing with this world, this commercial world, especially with all the things that they're trying to force us to do. The fact is that that we think that they're the reason, or they're the cause, or they're the evil, but the truth is it's all of us, that we've all created all of it. And so the judge is really there as a protector of the people. It's just about how we show up. And we have to show up in honor. So the law, in law, judge is to serve as the entry point between what is real and what is not. And so acting equitably is basically the sovereign way to end the game with a deception. And equity is a matter of history. It's a matter of walking backwards. So you literally are walking backwards, everything that you've ever done. And so if we look at equity in the Black's Law, it's pretty big definition, but it says justice administered according to fairness, as contrasted with the strictly formulated rules of common law. It is based on a system of rules and principles which originated in England as an alternative to the harsh rules of common law. And I just want to stop here because it's really funny. When I talk to people about common law, people are like, common law is a good thing. Yeah, it's a good thing. However, it's an agreed set of standards based on what the people agree to. So if people agree to, say, wearing masks all the time, eventually it's going to become a standard of the people.
Yes.
And so it's not necessarily always a good thing. And back in the day, and I read this in the Manual of Commercial Law, to define if somebody was guilty or not, they would drown them. And if they lived, they were seen as guilty. And that means that if they were guilty, they were sentenced to death.
Yeah.
And if they died while being drowned, then they were considered to be innocent.
Yeah.
So equity is basically based on what is fair in a particular situation. And it denotes the spirit of habit of fairness and justness and right dealing, which is funny because it's exactly what's in line with syncretism, right? The right path.
Absolutely.
And it regulates what the intercourse between men and men, or men and women, or women and women. So basically, equity is a body of jurisprudence, and jurisprudence is a science of law. And it differs from its origin, its theory, and its methods from common law. So it's basically the ultimate equity, being equitable.
Insane.
Gotcha. Which is absolutely the utmost form of law then. What would be superior to that? That's, you could say nature's law, God's law, couldn't you? It's not positive.
It's the remedy, because you can always make mistakes. We're children of the divine, We can always say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, and then, recollect of what that mistake is, and then move on. So there has to be a remedy, because we are dealing with the world of the dead. It's not the real world. It's not the living world. And actually there are a set of general principles that govern the way equity operates. And these are known as the maxims of equity, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with. But to bring in a few of those, one of the things, equity will not suffer a wrong to be without a remedy. So just like what I was saying, equity requires that you recognize that you made a mistake in order to receive the remedy.
It really is amazing. There's another one that you spoke about. He who seeks equity must do equity. And equity is in what one does, says, has done, and understands. So we must be seen as worthy, like you were just saying before.
Worthy as in knowledgeable.
Yeah.
Competence.
Yes.
You're not remaking new contracts.
No.
You're settling all what you've done. You're settling the waters.
Yes. And if you come come with dirty hands, you cannot expect remedy, right? Is that correct?
Right. So you're referring to he who
comes with equity must come with clean hands.
Must come with clean hands. Yeah. So you cannot be guilty of unconscionable conduct and expect remedy. And so what is unconscionable conduct? Well, that's a huge list of things. But if you think about it, if you are a child of the divine, meaning that we know how law of attraction works, we know how manifesting works, we understand the vibrations of our bodies, and when we go ahead and contract with an illusory world that is out to destroy the world, and we have used our energy to make that world come to life, well, that's unconscionable.
Yes, that is. Because our energy is all, right? That's what matters most, correct? There is no higher than our source energy.
Right, so we are the value.
Yes.
Our living, breathing beings, as Santos does such a great job showing in his many videos. And so it's funny how we're so encapsulated by things that we think have value, like the dollar bill, or like any sort of fiat currency, which doesn't. The only thing that makes the world go around, just like Michael Tellinger says, are the people.
Absolutely. Rebecca, I wanted to quickly...
What she just said is exactly what I've been trying to tell people for years. But when I tell them, apparently they say I'm crazy. Maybe it's in the wording. She words it much better.
Right.
Yes, exactly. And if you have to say anything, ask them to read you your Miranda rights.
Yeah.
And
which they don't do anymore. Which they do not do. It used to be obligatory, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Right, but then that would mean that you're under arrest, and so they would have to have some reason to assume that you have some reason to be under arrest.
Yes,
and typically when you're being pulled over, that's not the case. They're just harassing you.
Yeah.
And it's all because of what's on your license plate. It's all because of the license. It's just all these agreements that we've made. But I just want to say too is that I do not recommend, because I did this. I do not recommend that people stop using their license until they know exactly what they're doing, because we're in belligerency right now. We're under military occupation. The military is at war with the people of the United States, and so therefore everything that we are doing is because it's what is required for military law and conduct.
Why?
They give us notice.
I'm so sorry. Tell people why the military is in war right now against its own people.
Well, it's really of a foreign nation, because we belong to the land, and they are of a foreign entity.
There you go.
And America was born out of belligerency, but also there was every 70 years, not belligerency, bankruptcy. Every 70 years, that bankruptcy has to get reset.
Yes.
And we're already past the third time, which is the third and last time. So basically, this whole deal that we've been going into with the vid is about fully encapsulating the souls. It's the last part of their agenda.
They do give us full disclosure to an extent.
And they do a disclosure through many different ways, because even like in the scriptures, like what I talk about, they're sending us notice. That's what this whole thing is about. They have to send us notice. So even in songs, they're telling us these things, what's going on. Like the song "Fallen" by Sarah McLachlan. Now, when I recognize that song is talking about equity, and she even is at one point in the video, she's in a boat in water. It sounds like a love song, but it's really not a love song. There's Jewel, the Who Will Save Your Soul. They're constantly giving us notices about what's going on, and that's because they have to. Now it's up to us to be able to decipher what's going on, so that we can decide what we want to do. Do we want to stay human, or do we want to become something else?
Good point. Exactly. So even though we see them doing an evil work, it's actually a good work. It's providing the other side of what they're trying to achieve, the other side, which is actually waking people up. So
exactly.
Yeah, we shouldn't see it just as one thing. It's evil, it's bad, what's happening is bad. No, because good will come from it.
Right, and right now the lemon is getting squeezed even harder. The water is getting hotter and hotter. The frogs are getting close to being boiled to death, and that right there is causing people. I find that, I call that the resistant points. That's making people having to jump out if they want to jump out. Because 5 or 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 10 years ago, it was way too easy for those who were doing well by the system, you know. And I consider it to be like Hunger Games, the Hunger Games, you know, because it seems exactly like that.
Sovereignty, control of self, ownership of your own ship. You know, people don't realize, no, too deep for this video. Never mind, ain't going there.
In an emailed statement, writing in part, quote, "Our cleanup followed many communications throughout the summer. The general manager did not say what those communications were or how they were made." Davis says she has since learned there were flyers put up around the cemetery.
If notices were distributed in an effective manner, then there wouldn't be hundreds of people mad right now with the fact that their loved ones' grave sites were just desecrated.
I'm in agreement with her. Yes. And I love Santos. As you guys know, I love Santos Bonacci. Been following him for years. Plus, it helps that my grandfather is from Calabria as well. Yeah, I'm related to some Santoses out there. So maybe that's how I ended up following Bonacci. Or maybe it started with Fibonacci. Or maybe it went back further. Too cute. I just caught another error. Wow. I said related to a bunch of Santoses. No, a bunch of Bonaccis. But I love Santos. Oh, the edits I should do on this video. But I'm just keeping it real. What you see is what you get.